Today I'm going to introduce you to Adobe Premiere Pro CC version 2014. So the first thing you need to do is to create a new project. So if you go to File, New and Project. When you first launch Premiere Pro, you will get this option to create a new project in a different dialog box, but the process is the same once you click on that button. So here's our new project. So first we've got to find a place to store this project. Now I'm just going to save it to my desktop. You can find a better place, preferably on a OneDrive or a Google Drive, somewhere, some sort of cloud storage. So I'm just going to call it First. Okay, and I'm going to say go select folder and save it there. I'm going to change the name from Untitled. And I normally would give my project some more meaningful name. I'm just going to call this one First. Now these other things, you don't really need to worry about those. Okay, if your GPU supports it, you can select this option, but in most cases that won't work. We've got your display format. Yeah, no need to change any of this stuff. Okay, and just clicking on the next tab, you've got Scratch This. So Scratch This is basically storage areas, and you can actually set your Scratch This to be on a different drive to the drive you're saving to, but for our purposes we won't need to change any of these settings. It's only if you're quite cautious about where you're saving things and for backups, etc., that you would change these things. Okay, so there we have it. We just put in the name, we've picked a location to store all our files, and just click on OK. Okay, so this is the Premiere Pro interface, and at first it can appear quite intimidating because there is a lot going on. You've effectively got 4 windows within the one window, so it can be a bit overwhelming. Same with After Effects and to a lesser extent Audition as well. So there are 4 main windows in Premiere Pro. On the left here, the top left here, we have the source monitor. They call it monitor rather than window. They call it source monitor. Here, this will display your source clips. We'll see that in action shortly. On the right here, we've got the program monitor. So program is your output, basically, what your rendered video will look like. It's like a preview. So here we've got this, you could treat your source as input, your program as output. So we get our source files. Well, we work out what our source files are going to be, our source clips rather, and we do that in our source monitor. The finished video will be in this program monitor. And down here, we've got this one here. And it's probably the most significant one, is a timeline. So the timeline works similar in some ways to the timeline in Flash, but it is generally a lot more complicated. There's a lot more options that you can work with on this timeline. The final window we've got here is, we call this the project bin. Okay, it does actually have multiple tabs. Well, all these windows have multiple tabs, with the exception of the timeline and the program. But we call this the project bin, B-I-N. So rather than calling it folder, we call it bin. And we'll see why later. First thing you should do before you start editing your video is to organize your media outside of your timeline, actually on your disk drive. So I've already created a media folder. I like to call the folder media, and I'll just bring that up. Okay, here's my media folder. So I created this one earlier. In my media folder, I've got 4 subfolders or subdirectories, and we've got audio. Okay, so that's where I'm going to put all my sounds, music, etc. Graphics. Okay, so that's mostly JPEG images, GIF images, PNG images, etc. And we've got titles. Now we'll see what a title is later. They are text based, and we've got video as well. Whoops, wrong one. Video. Okay, that stores actual video clips. So you've got your source footage. It's organized within a media folder. It is worth taking the trouble to organize your files into a directory structure like this, because it's going to make it so much easier later. On Blackboard, I put up several files. Can you download those into the relevant directories? So videos will go into here, our video folder, and there's a title as well. And they'll go into title folder, and there's also a school banner.gif as well. Okay, so I've got a few extra things there just for other projects. So I put all my media for all my projects into this media folder, and you can do the same as well. You can have separate media for separate folders, but then if you're reusing media across multiple projects, which is very common, then you're having to copy and paste your files in multiple places, and it can get sort of out of sync if you have like new versions of files. You've got to copy to 2 folders rather than just the one. So I just have one media folder which stores media for all my projects. I find that easier to work with. Okay, so we've downloaded the video, etc. from Blackboard, and we're going to go back to Premiere Pro now. So what we're going to go to first is in our project bin. We've got project first here, it's got nothing in it at the moment. We're actually going to click on Media Browser, and you can find your folder using the Media Browser, but it can actually get quite difficult trying to do that unless you've saved it like on your C drive. Like assets here is okay. I can go to my media browser, go to C drive, go to assets pretty quickly. But if you're storing your media in other places on your drive, it can be quite tedious in this small window to try and find that folder which is storing your media. So I'm going to go back to my project browser, and I've got my media folder open in Explorer. I'm just going to go to video, and I'm just going to drag my media in. Okay, it takes a couple of seconds, and I'm just going to first drag my bare video. What I've actually done here, I've not actually copied bare.wmv into Premiere Pro. I haven't copied it. What I've done is I've made a link to the file in Premiere Pro, but it's not actually made a copy. The Premiere Pro and many of Adobe's products are what they call non-destructive. That means when I make changes to this bare clip within Premiere Pro, it doesn't actually affect the file. It doesn't actually affect bare.wmv. Okay, it only affects what it's going to look like inside the project. And when I render my video from the project, yes, then you'll see the changes. But any changes I make to bare.wmv in Premiere Pro, they won't affect this file. Okay, so that's a really great feature of many of Adobe's products. Okay, let's have a look at this bare clip now. There's an option when you're looking at this footage, it's called hover scrub. And see, I've got my mouse cursor here. I've just clicked on this little thing here, and I'm dragging it left to the right. It makes a bit of a squeaky noise. So what I'm actually doing, they call it hover scrubbing. So I'm just going through the clip really quickly so I can see what the clip consists of. I might forget what it contains, or maybe I think, oh, maybe this isn't the best clip to use. And I can have a quick look at the entire clip just by scrubbing through that. Okay, so that's what they call hover scrubbing. The next thing to look at is the source monitor. So if I double click on that, just by double clicking on that clip, which we say has been imported, we've got the clip appear in the source monitor. And it's a lot better view of it. So I can, again, scrub through it really quickly. But it's a lot easier to see because it's larger. When we're here, we can pick certain parts of this clip. Say we don't want the entire clip, which is 12 seconds, a little bit longer than 12 seconds. Say we don't want all of that clip. We can set what they call in and out marks. But before we can do that, I'm going to actually create what they call a sequence. So a sequence is basically, it is a timeline. However, you can have multiple sequences. So let's just have a look at a sequence first. So I'm going to go to File, New, Sequence. Okay, and I'm just going to pick, in Australia, we pick PAL, just as a standard. Now you can pick widescreen or standard. But for what we're doing, it doesn't really matter. we'll just pick standard 48 kilohertz. And you can, of course, change the sequence name. If you're working with multiple sequence names, yes, you should definitely name your sequence names with a better name than sequence 01. So let's click OK there, and here's our sequence. So a sequence is basically, it's like a timeline. And you've got here, you will see V1, V2, V3. You can probably guess what V means. It means video. And then you've got A1, A2, A3. It means audio. We'll see this timeline in action more later. So what I'm going to do now, say I just want to get the first 11 seconds of this clip. So I'm going to go to the start. Okay, I'm going to set my in mark in, and we're going to go to 11 seconds. And it might actually be quicker rather than, okay, I've got it there. But you can actually just type in a number here if you want to. You can do that, or you can actually just type it in. So you can find the way that works best for you. Okay, so I'm at 11 seconds. So now I'm going to set my out mark there. Okay, so I've set an in mark at the start. I've set an out mark. So you can see this grey bit here. That's the portion of the clip that we actually want to drag to our timeline. I'm just going to put this little marker here, this little guitar pick at the start. So to add this portion of the clip, I'm just going to drag now from the middle of the clip and just drag it onto my timeline. Okay, and I'm releasing my mouse cursor at the start there. Okay, now you're going to get this message which says clip mismatch warning. This clip does not match the sequence settings. Change sequence to match the clip setting. And we will do that. So we're going to change the sequence settings, because we just picked power 48 Hertz, just sort of at random. But we want our timeline sequence to match our clips. And it does that automatically. You can adjust your sequence settings automatically to match your clips or not. Okay, so we've added our clip to the timeline. So let's play it now. You'll notice the program monitor's got something now. It's got our output. So I'm just going to play that through. And there we are. And it's finished there. Okay, so just play that through once more. And what I want you to notice on the right here is the audio meter. So this gives you a quick visual guide to the audio output level over here. So that's our first step in video editing.